Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for joining us. Today, I'm bringing you a Kickstarter preview of Valor Villainy Lludwik's Labyrinth by Skybound Games. Now, we have a whole series of other content that's going to be coming out during the course of this campaign, including a full review over on Board Game Co's channel and a series of gameplays passing through a few of the scenarios here in this prototype copy here on Quackalope, so make sure to hit that subscribe button down below as we bring you 7, 8, 10 videos a week. Whatever the case, this video is intended to give you, as quick as possible, an overview of exactly what this game is, what it does well, and why you might want to support the Kickstarter and add it to your shelf and get it to your table as soon as possible. First off, you have to be familiar with what Valor and Villainy is. Valor and Villainy is a game that, well, already exists. This is a standalone sequel-esque to the original Valor and Villainy Minions of Mordak, which was the very first Kickstarter that Quackalope ever covered just over 2.5 years ago. That game was a one versus many, where you were chucking dice, upgrading your characters, getting insane powers, and doing your very best to either play as Mordak and destroy the company of heroes, or work together as a band of arms to avenge the long-lost king who is catapulted over a wall and keep Mordak from stealing and securing the realm. The thing that made Valor and Villainy, Minions of Mordak, such a incredible gaming experience was the idea of how you powered up, gained magic cards and spells, rolled piles and piles of dice, and had a really interesting dice upgrade system. All of that's going to be consistent and the same here with Lludwik's Labyrinth. So if you liked the core premise or the core concept of what that original game was doing, this is going to do that tenfold. We have more creatures, more abilities, more special cards, more fine-tuned characters, more weird, wacky flavor text that twists sort of the nature of what you think creative writing is or should be. And of course, we have our character boards, all of which have rooms for additional dice upgrade slots, for powerful abilities, for cards to hop into the bottom as you gather treasure and start equipping it to your characters. But, and here's the big but, this game, Lludwik's Labyrinth, is going to be stepping away from that one versus many system that Minions of Mordak did so well. Here in Lludwik's Labyrinth, you're going to be working together as a collective team, going through a semi-legacy style system. Now, I say semi-legacy because there's no destructible elements of this game, and in fact, after you play through a few scenarios, about 8 or so, depending if you have the core game or any expansions that might be included, you're gonna be primarily playing one-off or adventure mode, where you take everything you've experienced, set yourself up against a boss, have all the cards shuffled together, and just kind of see what happens. But when you're first sitting down with this game, when you're playing through it with a group of friends or exploring it yourself as more people come to the table, you're gonna have an 8 to 10 campaign scenario system, where you not only learn how to play the game and escalate it one step at a time, but you also get the chance to discover, get the chance to upgrade, to track your character stats, to work together as a company of heroes doing your very best, I believe, to successfully place and get the pizza for the big party that's happening, the big celebration for the land recovering from Mordak's rise and then ultimate demise. This game is going to be pairing your group together, working together as a team, and the one versus many system, the player who is the villain, has been turned into a really creative AI system with a modular board. If I can pull it off and show you, that upgrades and slots with various different character boards, different enemy boards that have their own custom setup, their own dice progression, and of course their own unique way of cycling and, well, spawning creatures that they're going to be facing, and also utilizing their own custom magic deck, which will be kind of the AI system or the consequences that you're going to be facing and going up against for every single scenario. So this game is going to be semi-legacy. You're going to be journeying through the labyrinth here, doing your very best to reveal and flip tiles, kind of wrapping on and snaking back into each other, trying to accomplish a series of different types of missions, like don't allow all the Quackalopes to get away, or clear the dungeon of everything that's in it, right? Make sure you get rid of all the mechs and all the different golems, and of course, all of the pesty cuddlehounds. Now, I did say something key there. I said Quackalope, and that's because there is official Quackalope promo cards, and not only Quackalope promo cards, but a official Quackalope side scenario that exists in this campaign. So if you want to chase down, face off against a horrendous horned duck, and potentially eat a collection of them like chicken nuggets to regain your health, that's all going to be possible. This is the first game that has innovated on the idea of how to integrate and play with a Quackalope. But that's besides the point. I figured that was just something interesting and special that I'd share. The course of your gameplay is primarily going to function on two main systems. You're going to have the hero's activation phase and then the villain's activation phase. On the hero's turn, everyone's going to go. You're going to start by getting however many resources you have based on your current hero's status. You're going to then maneuver around the board, rolling dice, determining whether or not you're doing ranged, melee, or magic attacks, playing a sequence of cards from your hands, which have been upgraded in this version of the game, giving you not only magic and spell abilities, but also melee and ranged cards that just add more chaos and more modifications to the way that you can attack, manipulate, and do crazy powerful things. There's various elements of this game that feel broken, and that's because elements of this game are broken, and it is so much fun and so tragic when you run into a scenario that just completely feels overpowered in the best, the very best of a Mary-style games fashion. On your turn, you're going to maneuver throughout the board, expanding the terrain, flipping scenarios, going through gentle choose-your-own-adventure storytelling elements, which are going to be these quest cards that have variable outcomes depending on what you determine, including different items that you can find along the way, depending on, again, what you decide to do during a given scenario. I had one where I ran into I believe it was a gnome who was trapped underneath a rock slide with a tractor underneath in the labyrinth, and I could choose to help him escape. I could choose to convince the rocks themselves to step to the side, or I could just steal everything he had and run for it. And in a series of gameplays, I was successfully able to do all three of those things, or at least explore all three of those pathways, and everyone led to a different interesting result, and a different, well, interesting consequence. So you'll move through the board here, you'll fight minions that are on the board, you'll gather treasure, upgrade your characters, and then once everyone has gone, you'll come to the hero loot stash and upgrade your characters. This is where you'll get not only permanent buffs for the rest of the campaign for your party, but also, and most importantly, you'll spend those resources, everything you've successfully done, treasure you've collected, creatures you've been able to take out, and you'll use them to upgrade your player board, equipping treasure to your player board, upgrading your dice stats, and giving you more powerful abilities to roll. This is really fun if you decide to tank in one area or try to diversify so that you can do a series of really powerful attacks. Maybe you want as much activation as possible. Every character has their strengths and weaknesses, and every character is worth exploring any of the given tracks or pathways depending on what the scenario is presenting and what your party is made up of. I have a lot of fun debating and deciding where exactly I want to spend my limited resources. After we've all upgraded, we're going to come to the villain's activation phase. The villain is going to, well, do a few things. First off, he's going to roll a handful of dice, usually something around the lines of that, and start spawning their magic cards. Their magic cards are going to be based off of the scenario specific. There's a series of generic ones, and then there's, of course, repeating ones or ones that are custom to whatever it is you just discovered. And you don't know what you're getting into until you're facing off against the creature for the very first time. They're going to spawn and play as many magic as they can based on their dice roll, based on their stats, and these will do horrific things across the board, from spawning creatures to area of effect damage to just manipulating and shifting your position on the board. They're all crazy, and like I said before, all feel a little bit broken or a little bit overpowered, which is good because it equals out how broken and overpowered you can feel at times. From there, you'll do another dice roll. dice roll, spawning creatures this time onto the board based on whatever number you're able to, paying variable amounts for level 1s, 2s, and 3s. And these creatures, these minions, can be any series of horrific people that you have to face, from gnomes that are doing archery and dropping bombs, to cannons that are going to stay in one position and fire down a column of hallways, all the way to mechs or golems, which you can't destroy in a single hit. Throughout the course of the game, you're going to be discovering new special abilities and status effects that change the way you need to interact with, fight, and destroy down a stack. After your opponent or your main boss has gone, you'll then face off with the minions. They'll be moving around the board, kind of chasing you down, attacking your minions, because you do have creatures that you can control as well. For instance, Frank here, this giant miniature with a big old grave backpack behind him. You can play more to figure out exactly what he's doing here on the board. They're going to be chasing you down, trying to find you in the labyrinth and deal damage to you. The object of the game for win and loss usually comes down to defeat the big bad guy or accomplish the task or survive the rounds, versus don't get knocked out. If you get knocked out, you're going to be benefiting, well, whoever your opponent is, in this case, the Mad Imp. The more characters that get knocked down, the more health that your main boss has when you get to the end final boss scenario system, and most importantly, the more dice they're going to have to roll whenever they're triggering their magic and their minion activation again. After the boss levels up, you're going to check the day, cycle the day calendar one step forward. There's usually 4 days in a single scenario. Read the next story event, because every day, including the beginning of the scenario, starts with some really, really quality flavor text. And then dive back in, reactivating your heroes, leveling them up one more time, reactivating the boss, checking to see if minions are going to slowly close and encircle you, and then leveling up the boss until finally you get to day 4 or accomplish whatever your task is. And then you'll likely spawn a big old giant boss, standee, or miniature here on the board and engage in one final epic showdown where you determine whether or not you've successfully overcome and completed the challenge, been able to level up quick enough and perfect, or at least push the timeline fast enough that you were able to take down your opponent, or, like has happened to me more times than I am willing to admit, you discover you were woefully unprepared and suffer the consequences accordingly. If you already like Valor and Villainy, this game implements and experiments with what was so great about the original. Amazing cards, fun dice rolling, and a puzzle that's worth returning to and solving. But if you've never experienced the Valor and Villainy system, I'd say both are worth giving a shot, but this is the one where I would encourage you to start. It doesn't take quite as long, it isn't quite as confusing with the head-to-head one versus many system with the asymmetric player powers and the fact that you're teaching 2 roles. Instead, you get to sit down and play a cooperative game that will challenge you at every step, will give you a series of things worth laughing about and cheering about, and probably at times, again, more often than I'd like to admit, present you with obstacles that, well, will leave you feeling like you need to try again from zero. This is not an easy game. This game does not apologize for being a puzzle that is hard to solve, and I like that about a cooperative experience. I want to feel like I am doing something challenging on the board. Well, let me know down below your thoughts on Valor and Villainy. If you're as excited as I am for the incredible little Quackalope promos and the full Quackalope scenario, we will be posting a gameplay of this. If you've made it to this part, I suppose I can go ahead and tell you it didn't go well. It didn't go well at all. We fully embarrassed ourselves, but it might be fun for you to watch as we get destroyed by not only this game, but also the scenario based off of us. I've never been so heartbroken to see a Quackalope in person. Whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing, get out and play some games, and let me know what you think of Valor and Villainy. I'll see you next time. Thanks.